Days to the draft. We are counting it down. Let's do a feature called Trading Places. And Graz, I'll start with you. And we touched on this a moment ago. At number 3, the Arizona Cardinals sitting there. What are you hearing about trade possibilities?
I think they'd like to be able to do it and add more picks, but the question is who's willing to come up and for whom. So this could depend on what the Jets do at number 2 and who's still left at 3. As I mentioned earlier, I think there are teams that might make a move up if Arvell Reese is still sitting there at 3. I think there are teams that might make a move up to try and get ahead of Tennessee for Jeremiah Love. Obviously, it's also possible that the Cardinals sit tight and pick one of those guys.
That's the one, yes. Almost every mock that we have seen has the Cardinals taking Arvell Reese or David Bailey, whichever one the Jets don't take. But if teams really fall that much in love with Jeremiah Love, that would be the spot, it feels to me, to go get him and have it be safe.
Sure,
Jets aren't going to take him. The Raiders aren't going to take him. Tennessee remains sort of the big, no one is 100% sure what they're going to do. If you really want him, I feel like you got to go up to 3 to get him.
I agree. That's the ideal spot because, look, you have a first-year head coach and Mike LaFleur. You have a gazillion needs. So you are not a Jeremiah Love away or a pass rusher away if you're Arizona. If you could trade back and still be in that sweet spot, call it 7, 8, 9, you're going to get a really good player and load on picks. That's a great idea.
Yeah, D. Wood, can you trade up to 3 for a running back? I mean, if you're
that's the question.
Can a team in this day and age trade up to 3 to take a running back?
Man, that's a hard pill to swallow. You better have your line better be ready to have a player like Jeremiah Love if you're going to trade up to 3. It's just those guys coming in. If you're going to trade up to 3, man, it's got to be a guy that's going to make an impact right away, that's going to make a difference maker on your team. So, like, do you have that type of team that's going to be able to help this young man? It's a hard pill to swallow, but it could happen because he's a blue-chip guy.
Okay, so we've got that one there. Let's get next to the Jets. We talked about them. They're at 2. They're at 16.
Yeah.
Could they be a candidate to trade up in this class?
I think so. They have so many picks this year and next that they have the ability to maneuver however they want. If you're the Jets and you have, like, this is hypothetical, but if you have, like, the top 2 wide receivers in whatever order, and then you see a drop-off after that, and you're worried both those guys are going to be gone, then I think that's when you start to think about making this move to go up and make sure you get a Carnell Tate or a Jordan Tyson if that's your top 2, and if you think number 3 is way beneath them.
Yeah, people ask me all the time, what do you want the Jets to do? And I always say, the Jets have so much draft capital that what that gives you is flexibility. Yes. So I don't know who they like, and I'm not an expert enough to tell you who they should like. But what they clearly need is another wide receiver. So you got to figure out how much is the difference between someone like Omar Cooper, who might be the 3rd, or Mekhi Lemon, who might be the 3rd wide receiver in this class, versus the top 2.
And I think you just answered the question. That's why you don't trade up this year, because there's so many good receivers. Lemon, Cooper, some people like Denzel Boston, like Zachariah Branch, although he's a little bit undersized. So if I'm the Jets, with all the other things that they need, they've earned a lot of flexibility. I don't think this is the year that you need to trade up for a receiver. Now, as it relates to maybe a corner, obviously they got to figure out Ty Simpson. You know, that's a different conversation. But somebody like Mekhi Lemon could be there at 16, and then they can save the draft capital.
Now, D. Wood, give me the dream scenario. You got the Jets have 2, 16, and 33. Let's just focus on those 3. Give me players or at least positions that you think they should go, and let's see if one of them is the wide receiver we're looking for.
Yeah, 2, I'm definitely getting a pass rusher because you trade away Jermaine Johnson. At 16, listen, that to me, that's wide receiver. They need a wide receiver. Outside of Garrett Wilson and A.D. Mitchell, it falls off a cliff. So they need another wide receiver. And at 33, Granny, that's like you can do safety. That's a prime trade down spot if you're the Jets right there, because we know teams at that spot will be looking to make a deal with the Jets.
Can I add, dream scenario would be, I would say Omar Cooper at 16 and then trade up, take those 2 2s for Ty Simpson.
Yeah.
That's a dream scenario to me.
If they want the quarterback, then that's what you do.
Right.
They need a receiver so badly. Again, for those who didn't follow it, Garrett Wilson was their leading receiver last year. His last catch came in early October. That's literally how bad it was. Graziano, the final one, and this is the one Mel forecast a huge trade in his final mock draft, which got everybody buzzing. The Dallas Cowboys are at 12 and 20. What are we thinking?
Yeah, I think the Dallas Cowboys, it's similar to what I said about the Jets and receiver. If the Cowboys have a list of impact defensive players that they really like, and they're afraid one won't fall to them, then they have the capital to move up. I don't believe the Cowboys are eager to trade both of their first-round picks to move up. which is why I think the key element in Mel's proposed trade in his mock draft yesterday was Cleveland also sending back number 39 in the second round. So if you're Dallas, you're moving down from 20 to 39, and you're going up to get Sonny Styles,
yes,
Caleb Downs, one of those guys, Mansour Delane. If you're worried you're not going to have the opportunity to draft that guy at 12. Cowboys are a disciplined drafting team. I don't think they'll be reckless, but I do think they have their eye on a certain group of defensive players that they want to make sure they get one of.
Agree. Let's not forget, just to add to what Graz is saying, they go from 20, their next pick is 92.
Right.
So I would be reticent to trade up, especially you're not one player away. That defense needs a lot of help, and that's a long time to go to sit there and see 72 players come off the board until you pick again.
Let's talk about the player that we're talking about. Generally speaking, I think the player we're talking about here is Sonny Styles. Mm-hmm. That's who Mel forecast them moving up for. And again, at 6, I'm not an expert. If I had to bet on it, I would bet Sonny Styles isn't still going to be there at 6. But if Styles is sitting there on the board at 6, is he that good? Is he Fred Warner? Is he's that level of good?
He is unbelievable. And there's a reason why when you talk to quarterbacks, they talk about the length of that middle linebacker because they have to run down the middle of the field on these Tampa 2 coverages. He's 6'5" and ran a 4.46. He's a former safety, so he has range. He plays really aggressively. He's a great tackler. He's going to be a great, great player. If they were one player away, I'm on board. If they had a second-round pick, I'm on board. So this is not about Sonny Styles. This is about what's best for the Cowboys.
And if you really want that player in your Dallas, and you know you can get to 6 to get him, 7 is Washington, that probably also really wants that player,
right,
and you have to play twice a year. That may be why we're looking at 6 as the sweet spot if they make that move.
Yeah, and the next edition of First Draft, which will drop, I believe, tomorrow, we recorded it yesterday. We were doing player comps. I'll just give one of them away. The player comp we gave for Sonny Styles, you made me think of it when you pointed out that he's a converted safety, was Brian Urlacher. Mm-hmm. Brian Urlacher, once upon a time, was a safety, became a linebacker, had that range, right, goes side to side. He's the one guy who could chase down Michael Vick, take an angle on that. Back in his day, obviously, it's a generation ago. So, D. Wood, that's really the question, I think, if you're the Cowboys, because there's all this talk about trading up for them. Do you win? Let me ask you this. You know what it's like to be on a great team. You know how great teams become great. Do you win by having one great player or a whole bunch of good ones?
Bunch of good ones. Yeah, you need a team. Like the Cowboys aren't one player away. Now they have that green. They need a green dot player. That's why Sonny Styles makes so much sense for them. But if you got to, I'm not giving up 12 and 20 to go move up. I'm just not doing that from the Dallas Cowboys. I'm going to sit there and take whoever falls to me. But if he starts to fall, now I'm going to go ahead and try to see what I can do to go get the guy. But man, like Sonny Styles he's exactly what the Cowboys need on defense, to be honest with you.
Right, because he's a guy that would get everybody else organized, right? You're talking about a great player that could elevate the good players that you have on the defensive side of the ball. So, yeah, I get what you're saying about they're not one player away. That's why I think if you're going to trade 12 and 20, you've got to get at least one day 2 pick back in return.
Yeah, I just think it falls off the cliff somewhere around 25 or so relative to like the sweet spot of this draft.
I just, as a final thought, to sort of put a fine point on it, I don't know if I'm asking my question well. How do you, when you're sitting in the room making these decisions, weigh, I can get one player who I think is an enormous difference maker, but I know I have a lot of needs. But if you look at teams that win championships, they tend to have like 1 or 2 guys around whom things are built. How do you determine the value of that one guy if he is this good as everyone is telling me Sonny Styles is?
He's got to be a Hall of Famer. He's got to be able to score touchdowns. He's got to be able to sack the quarterback, or he has to be an elite, once-in-a-generation Darrelle Revis type when we traded up for him at corner. So that's the one thing, actually, Sonny Styles' box he doesn't check, even though he's a great player. So that's why I would be somewhat reticent to do that.
He doesn't check the critical position because he plays off-ball linebacker. Okay, I'd be fascinated to see where it all goes.